Japan is a beautiful place full of beautiful things. Consider Mount Fuji, the most bashful of mountains, or the Great Torii Gates, a continuous opportunity for a selfie moment, or the bamboo forest, haunted by the sound of ghostly monkey calls on the wind. These are some of the many great spectacles from the land of the rising sun. They also have weird like tentacle hentai, which I consider to be one of Japan's greatest achievements, clearly. They took years, centuries of creative suppression, and they fought against strict morality laws because the people were like, we want porn, and they're like, I know, I got you, fam. And they achieved this in very sneaky and persistent ways. In that respect, hentai is a cultural artifact, and it should be protected, and it must be discussed right now. So let's do a little time traveling. The years are 700 to 1200 in the year of our porn. This is where we lay our scene. Back then, hentai was called shunga, and they were passing that shit around like it was nobody's business. But then the shoguns showed up. The emperor was like, hey, shoguns, go be landlords for all these neighboring towns. And the shoguns were like, can do. And so they did. The shoguns were basically the top military peeps in Japan. I mean, the emperor was still the emperor, but the shogi boys, they were really laying down the law. And of their law, they had a lot of feels, and some of those feels were, I want to shut down all that immoral, creepy, weird porn that's been floating around. And so they did. Early 1600s to mid 1800s, a lot of went down. A lot of wars and skirmishes, Japan needed out of world affairs, and it made a formal blockade, and Mount Fuji blew up a little bit. Just a little bit. Not great. Similar to America's Prohibition era, where they made alcohol illegal, in Japan now it was drawings of dicks. And arrests were made, and punishment was harsh. Eventually, the US got really annoyed, so they instituted a little diplomacy, which was really a passive-aggressive flex. The world needed their resources, though, so they parked their boats on the shoreline of Japan, filled it with gifts, and waited. Japan eventually surrendered. They didn't have a navy at the time, so they opened up trade and they adopted some Western ideology. The 1870s to 1910s was hellish. The Meiji era came with a lot of things, such as another huge political shift. And the government this time, it was dropping down the hammer on alternative religions and just anything that criticized the government, and also porn, the distribution and ownership, including doujin. During this time, medical doctors and theorists started talking about sexuality, warning people, honestly, and mentioning it in medical journals. They hoped that they could strengthen morality by talking about this very perverse, very strange, like communicable issue that is sexuality. But that didn't do shit. If anything, it made it more important, more popular. People were reading the medical journals about sexuality and then talking about it in trashy magazines. This led to the popularization of fetishes, and also self-appointed sexperts, helping with marital advice. It's the 1940s, and there's war again. Japan, it pulls back, and it clamps up on its society. The Department of Propaganda in the government, it explodes and it takes over. Now any sort of written material has to be approved first by the emperor himself. If they found out that you were creating and distributing any sort of literature, especially if it's critical of the government or related to porn, punishment was harsh. You could have $1 million fine. You could be in jail for life. You could even be killed. For porn! Oh my gosh. But like 5 years later, America steps in again and it asserts dominance. After the Pacific War and with the adoption of more Western ideologies, the porn companies, they were free. They were allowed to exist. They were given the green light from the government. My God, did they rejoice. And they said, Japan, We're gonna live our best lives and we're gonna give you the best that we can give. Man, they gave it to us hard. They were so happy. This Japan of the 40s onward, it was so different from that of just a few decades prior, where Japan focused on conservatism and sexual modesty. But now it appreciated the female form and it explored its sexuality. It was beautiful, and I'm so proud of them. Also, doujin was legal too, but that was still actually a little taboo. But it was all technically legal. By the 1960s, pink films came out, and those were the censored JAV videos that we actually still know today. As well, during this time, America was having a sexual revolution. They were getting funky, and Japan wanted to get funky too, so they copied it. Also, during this time came the emergence of BDSM culture. I personally believe that the oppression of sex throughout their history led to a sexual fetishism of authoritativeness. They were making the best out of a bad situation, and it was really sexy. Oh, son, it's the 1980s. Technological boom. Oh my God, it's huge. The effect of rapid globalization, it popularized things like arcades and gaming consoles and even PCs. Obviously, porn jumped that hype train. More and more people were getting their own PCs because they wanted to jerk off alone in their house, and that's awesome. There was so much competition between all of the computer companies. It was madness. However, if what you were producing had a CD drive or any sort of graphics whatsoever, you were winning and you were making money hard because people wanted to play their hentai games. Badly. Not only did JAV blow up, but so did the doujinshi market. It was awesome, and statistically, 50% of that market was pornographic. Isn't that crazy? From there, then we got the more specific genres of porn. This one dude thought he was so smart. He said, I'm gonna make characters with no secondary sexual characteristics whatsoever to sneak around the pixelation censorship laws. He went on to create the lolicon genre. And he went on to become Japan's most incarcerated citizen. Some say he's still in jail today. Good job, loli lover. Another dude was kind of smart too, and really kinky. He said, I'm gonna get around these censorship laws too, with tentacle monsters. And this led to a whole genre of its own. Monster porn. They had robots and dragons and you name it, with strong BDSM elements. So there are these big ethics organizations that are tasked with deciding the acceptability of different porn. It's stupid, but it exists, and because of it, Japan is allowed to export all their weird porn to the rest of the world. It's awesome. In 2020, hentai is the fastest growing genre, paving the way for modern entertainment. It shows no stopping, and the audience is a very diverse group of millennials. Its capabilities are boundless, and who knows, maybe one day you can actually interact with your own waifu. Maybe. Probably not, though. Pornhub does a study every year ranking genre popularity based on country. In 2015, hentai came in number 17. And in 2019, it came in as number 2. Number 2! Followed by lesbians and horny milfs. Shouldn't forget about them. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Tell me guys, what do you think will happen to hentai? In 5 years? In 20 years? Tell me down below. And may God have mercy on your pervy, horny souls. See you later, guys.
Я хочу пиццу. Я хочу сожрать пиццу. Очень вкусную, очень-очень сочную. Дайте 2, дайте 3, дайте все. Я сожру здесь пиццу и во сне.